understand if you read the works of Christian mystics. Suddenly, we feel that you may heard, suddenly some angels coming and speaking, requesting you to reform the world. God suddenly requests you to do something for the good of others, so you take upon a big gigantic task, full of excitement, violent tendencies. Messiah, prophet syndrome, which even Freud called it, Sigmund Freud, the most unlikely person to quote in this context, called it prophet syndrome. So all these are the results of unfit mind, unprepared mind, trying to meditate. If the mind is ready, if it has gone through this process of purification, then it attains a high level of serenity, and only noble, pure thoughts will come to the mind when such a spiritual seeker tries to meditate. If the mind is not ready for it, then what happens? Mutually conflicting thought currents will come to the surface. This could create this kind of false visions, hallucinations, and so on. Therefore, all the great spiritual psychologists have recommended one important and very, very useful method to counteract this problem. Read good books. In Sanskrit, we call Swadhyaya, which is one of the 10 disciplines which every spiritual seeker should practice. Ahimsa, Satya, Asteya, Brahmacharya, Parigraha, Shaucha, Santosha, Tapas, Swadhyaya, Ishwar Pranidhana. Swadhyaya is mentioned here because it is a very gross practice. It can be a very, very physical activity. You just go to the library and take a good book. For that, you don't have to go through a lot of inner struggle. This famous book, Inner Warfare, some of the spiritual warfare. So, in this spiritual warfare between the two opposing groups, you can easily win the war if you just concentrate on one activity. Try to develop an interest in some spiritual ideas, on some spiritual topics, and divert all your mental energies and activities towards that particular goal. The point is, at the beginning stage, it is not our natural tendency to go for spiritual practices. We need an artificial effort. If it were a natural tendency, then it would be very easy for us to do spiritual sadhana. But for a beginner, it is sometimes an unnatural tendency. It's like swimming against a strong current. So, because it is an unnatural tendency, it is a tendency that you want to cultivate and evolve and develop. It needs a strong determination, a strong will. What is our natural tendency? Suppose you go to your room full of books and magazines. Nobody is observing you. Nobody is watching you. What? That library, the room, has books on different topics. Very vulgar topics and also very sublime spiritual topics also. What book will we choose to read? That is our natural tendency. When we are under strong observation, we often put on different layers, artificial layers in our mind. Even if a hotel receptionist is suffering from serious stomach pain, he has to smile. So different layers. There are artificial, unnatural layers. But when we are not under anybody's observation, what is a natural characteristic tendency? That comes to the surface. That comes to the surface only on two occasions. One, when we are not under anybody's observation. The other, when we are facing death. On these two contexts, our natural tendencies come to the surface. So, every spiritual seeker has to aim at one goal, to make spiritual aspiration his or her natural tendency. For that, what he should do is, at the beginning stage, he must try to feed his mind with spiritual ideas, spiritual images, spiritual memories, spiritual tendencies. So one important method which all great spiritual psychologists recommend is Swadhyaya. Sauja is purification, internal purification, external purification. Tapa is Chitta Ekagrya Manat Tapaha, the concentration of senses and mind, and also purity, focusing. Then contentment. These are all more abstract, more subtle qualities that we have to evolve. But Swadhyaya, at least its physical aspect, is simple. So once you go on reading or thinking, Swadhyaya literally means, the technical definition is that you should read a holy book or spiritual literature with great concentration, understanding meaning in a very systematic way. But in its extended meaning, it also means getting familiar with spiritual ideas by whatever means possible. Because this gradually feeds the mind with positive tendencies and impressions. And once your mind gets a surplus of positive tendencies and impressions, which are helpful in spiritual life, slowly spiritual aspiration will become our natural tendency. Non-spiritual tendencies will become alien to us. For a beginner, spiritual tendency is alien. He has to work hard to develop it. Non-spiritual tendencies become natural. So every spiritual seeker should try to sublimate his interest, his level of consciousness, mental consciousness, to a higher level by feeding the mind constantly, continuously, with spiritually healthy ideas. If you feed the mind with spiritually healthy food, mind will become spiritually healthy. If you feed it with poisonous food, mind will become sick and will die. So these are some of the points that I wanted to stress today. So now we will have interaction for about 30 minutes. So we can discuss till 5.
Swami, Buddhists aim for the state of oneness. They call it nirvana. So what is wrong with the state of?
Yes. You know, this Shunyavada, it's called a doctrine of emptiness, doctrine of voidness. Is one of the two schools of idealism in later Buddhism. Nagarjuna's Madhyamika Karya is the Bible of this doctrine of emptiness. Chandragirti's commentary. Now, in Nagarjuna's original Sanskrit book, this voidness or emptiness is not a negative zero. It's a positive zero. So it is, in a way, it is another approach to Vedanta. Because once you attain this shunyata, means the status of emptiness, you get liberated, nirvana. So nirvana means, it implies freedom from sorrow, from dukkha. Because you know the Chattvarya Arisatyani, Buddhist doctrine of sorrows. Chattvarya Arisatyani, for noble truths of sorrow, of grief. Now, this nirvana is a liberation from dukkha. This nirvana, therefore, can be a positive experience of blissfulness. Now, how can at zero, a negative voidness, emptiness, give you a positive experience of blissfulness? Therefore, in Nagarjuna's metaphysics, Shunyata is not a kind of total emptiness. The word Sanskrit Shunyata used, Nagarjuna himself says, of course, I have to quote it, Nastyastiri Varjidaka. then Shunyata is defined as non-dualistic. The word Advaita is also used as an adjective to Shunyata, non-dualistic. It is the absolute point of realization, liberation in Nagarjuna's metaphysics, Shunyavada. So it is not extinction of everything into nothingness. It is that nothingness, as understood in Nagarjuna's system of philosophy, is a kind of an experience of blissfulness. That's why many modern Vedantic philosophers interpret Buddhist school of Shunyavada as another approach to Vedanta. Otherwise, you can't explain. Sometimes, if Shunyata is real nothingness or emptiness, how can it give you a feeling of blissfulness, of liberation? Logically, it is not acceptable. That gives you liberation from dukkha, from sorrow. You are liberated from this cycle of pradipti samudpada, this cyclic rotation of existence, life, birth, death, and so on. Therefore, the real Shunyavada of Nagarjuna is a negative approach to Vedanta, but still it is an approach to Vedanta. That's the explanation. Yes.
Swami, what is the difference between meditation and japa?
Oh,
Exactly.
japa, okay. But in normal practice, meditation leads you, japa leads you to meditation. Japa can be verbal. You utter the holy name verbally. You may also utter it with the lips moving. It's called upamsu. Vachika is verbal, upamsu is lips moving. It can also be mental in a subtle form, manasika. So meditation in Patanjali system in dhyana. It is the stage just before samadhi. Seventh, dharana, dhyana, samadhi. So meditation is a higher state where you identify yourself with the supreme truth through complete concentration. You don't become one with it, but your whole system takes one single focus. You mentally get absorbed in the thought of that absolute reality. Japa is for the beginner. Advanced japa becomes natural for the highest spiritual version, of course. For the beginner, it begins as verbal practice and gradually it leads you to the mental, the manasika dimension, the subtle dimension. Yesterday I explained this, the 4 levels: Vaikhari, Pashyanti, Vaikhari, Madhyama, Pashyanti, and Para. Para, Pashyanti, Madhyama, Vaikhari. The last stage you become one with it, Para. That is meditation. Right.
Swamiji,
Just, okay, you can then continue. You come.
so in Patanjali, it says yoga, chitta, vritti, nirodha, right? And Shunyavada, they sound very similar.
You really, in the Shunya experience, Chittavutti reaches cessation, the Nirodha, but it is not through yogic practice. When you become completely immersed in Shunyata, it is not very different from the Advaitic experience of Jivatman getting fully identified Paramatma. That's why it is called a Vedantic approach, it is a Buddhist approach to Vedanta. But Patanjali doesn't accept this kind of ultimate experience. When he talks about yoga chittavutti nirodha, yoga is defined as chittavutti nirodha. Yoga is cessation of all mental vrittis. when those vrittis get completely sublated, when they're completely transcended, your chitta no longer exists. Your chitta exists only so long as vrittis are alive. When the vrittis are not acting, chitta practically has no function. Yesterday I said, vritti comes, then is sthiti, then goes up again, like that. So when the vrittis are completely non-existent, then mind also doesn't exist. That state makes you fit for the highest spiritual experience, which is called Advaitic experience, which is what actually Shunya experience is all about. But the yoga is only a stage for preparing you for this experience. It is not the highest goal. Yoga is not the goal. Yoga makes you fit for the highest experience. When all vrittis are gone, you are ready for the highest Jiva Brahmaikya experience in Vedantic language. But in Shunya experience, when all the three vrittis cease to exist, you realize the Shunya. But that Shunya, again as I said just now, the Shunyata is defined by Nagarjuna in using practically the same language which Shankaracharya uses in his commentaries to explain Brahman. Nasti sthiti vachi, it cannot be said to be existent or non-existent. It is non-dualistic. It takes you away from Maya. It takes you away from the relative. It takes you away from the empirical. All these words, all these explanations are given by Nagarjuna. What does it mean? It is nothing but another way of explaining the non-dualistic experience. But Patanjali's yoga doesn't give you this ultimate experience. It makes you fit for this ultimate experience. Yoga, so Patanjali's Chitta Vritti Nirodha is nothing but Chitta Shuddhi, purification of Chitta. When all the vrittis are non-existent, Chitta becomes pure. It is no longer Chitta, which means ceases to exist. Then you are fit for the highest experience. Patanjali's system, Patanjali's definition of yoga is not a description of the highest spiritual goal. It is a description of the highest level of reaching spiritual fitness for the highest experience, but not of the highest experience itself. Follow the point? Yoga makes you fit for the highest experience, but yoga is not a name of the highest experience itself. Patanjali's system is not recognized as a system that takes you to the highest goal. Advaitins don't recognize it. Advaitins do recognize it as a path that leads you to the highest Chitta Shuddhi. So Chitta Vritti Nirodha is nothing but the attainment of Chitta Shuddhi, total purification of the mind. When you naturally think of the ultimate God. Because there is no other image, no tendency, everything is God. Your mind is naturally turning towards God. But it's not the goal itself, the penultimate stage.
There is another question regarding this. This Chitta Vritti Nirodha means, there is no more ripples in the mind, Chitta, in the Chitta. So now these ripples could be, good thoughts, bad thoughts, both. So, if pure thoughts are there, that would also purify the mind. So it doesn't have to be completely,
Yeah. Yes. That's why all these you relate to Advaita. So first I shall give the Advaitic view, then come into that will make things very clear. In Advaitic tradition, just before you reach the ultimate experience, your whole system attains what is called Brahmakara Vritti. All other vrittis, tendencies are completely sublated, they are gone, and you think only of the absolute reality. So it's called Brahmakara Vritti. You don't think of any other vrittis, no other tendencies exist. All other minor, diverse vrittis are gone. One single big vritti, tendency, that is Brahmakara Vritti, means the vritti which takes the akara, the form of Brahman. That is the penultimate state before you become fully absorbed in Brahman. In Patanjali's system, when he defines yoga as chitta vritti nirodhaka, what he means is, through the practice of yoga, all your vrittis cease to exist. But that is the state of chitta shuddhi. Chitta shuddhi actually means chitta becoming completely deprived of all the multiplicity of vrittis. Then what happens? It has got only one vritti, the ultimate reality. But that takes you to the highest level of fitness, but not to the highest goal itself. So it is a penultimate state from a Vedantic point of view. That's the idea. It's equivalent to Brahmakara Vritti, parallel to that. Something.
You mentioned not the warning of not to meditate against voidness.
Concentrating on voidness. Yes.
Concentrating on voidness. Is that the same as concentrating or meditating on light? Or are they different?
Yes, and light is a symbol of knowledge and reality. The word Jyoti in Vedantic tradition stands for the ultimate reality. In the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad there is a Brahmana section called Jyoti Brahmana, where a little explanation is necessary. Why light is the greatest symbol, one of the greatest symbols of the absolute knowledge. It's a dialogue between a great king and emperor, philosopher like Janaka, and a great sage of those days, Yajnavalkya. So one day Yajnavalkya visits Janaka in his court. So the king Janaka puts one question to the great sage. Well, now look here, Yajnavalkya. Yajnavalkya is the name of the sage. When the sun has set in the west, when the moon has set in the west, when there is no fire and no sound, how do you recognize the existence of different objects around you? The answer is because of Atman, which functions as the light. I have given you in brief, but perhaps it needs a little explanation. So the first question that the king puts the sage is this. Well, Yajnavalkya, how do people move about? How do they go about doing their work? How do they sit? How do they return to their place, etc.? The answer given by Yajnavalkya is sunlight. When sun has set in the west, moonlight. Suppose there is no moon, no sunlight either, then what happens? Fire. You can strike a match. That serves the purpose of light. Suppose you are sitting in a dark room, no sunlight, no moonlight, no fire. But there is a vehicle, a car moving at a distance. You hear about it. Here means you come to know about it. Knowledge aspect is very important. In sunlight, you see an object in front of you with your eyes. So you come to know, you get the knowledge of that visual object. In moonlight also, the moonlight functions as the source of knowledge. And then, in the absence of sunlight and moonlight, you strike a match or a candle, light a candle. So fire functions as a source of light, source of knowledge. Suppose there is neither sunlight, nor moonlight, nor fire. What is the source of knowledge? So you hear the sound from a car moving at a distance. So you come to know of the existence of the car from the sound, by hearing the sound that it is producing. So sound becomes speech, or sound becomes a source of knowledge. Suppose you are sitting in a room, neither sunlight, no moonlight, no fire, and no sound either. You could sit your eyes closed. You remember what you did this morning. You remember what you saw 10 years back. All these vivid images, memories, all are coming back to your mind. What's the source? The answer is Atman. Atman Jyoti. So Surya Jyoti, Chandra Jyoti, Agnir Jyoti, Vak Jyoti, Atman Jyoti. 5 dimensions of light as knowledge. Now if this Atman is absent, even if the sunlight is there, you won't see anything. If Atman is absent, even there is moonlight, you won't see. Fire also won't be of any use. You can't hear things either. So all other lights are borrowed lights. But Atman Jyoti is only Jyoti that is the real source of knowledge. If there is no Atman, then 1,000 suns won't be able to reveal to you anything. So all other lights borrow their ability to reveal things from Atman. Because the light reveals itself and light reveals others. All other objects are revealed by light. Light can reveal its own existence. It also can reveal the existence of all other objects in its vicinity. Therefore, Yajnavalkya's reply is Jyotisham Jyoti, means the light of all lights. So, the point is, light is symbolic of knowledge, ultimate supreme knowledge. Now, if a person concentrates on sun, sky, or anything, he can get spiritual benefit. But if he is a beginner and if he tries to meditate on voidness, in 90% of the cases he is likely to fall asleep. Because you need a focus. You need a focus. Because mind is being dragged by the 5 senses, different focuses, objects outside. The first purpose is to drag mind back from the sense objects, the external world. For that you need a big counter focus. For that you need a visible, a vivid, a living focus. Sometimes called Ishtadevata Dhyana. You need to concentrate or meditate upon a great spiritual idea, a great spiritual personality. Because only vivid and graphic counter focus can help you to withdraw your mind away from innumerable diverse objects in the external world. Japa is the first step to create a counter focus, to counteract against the distraction of the mind. So if you meditate on voidness, it is not possible. Voidness doesn't present you with a vivid and positive counter focus. That's the idea. But if a person had reached the highest level of non-dualistic experience, then everything is possible. For such a person, he can meditate even in a market street, anywhere. You find in Mahabharata the story of Vyadha and others. You find that it is possible. For such people, the whole world becomes a temple. Every moment of life becomes a meditation. Every moment becomes spiritual practice. The difference, the dividing line between the secular and spiritual vanishes. But that's for the advanced soul, for the realized persons. For the beginner, he needs or she needs a counter focus to withdraw the mind away from innumerable points of distraction, the external world. That's it.